Hey everyone, that's STEM Guy here. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create this awesome layered map artifact by using Flux's free to use software Beam Studio. And I'm also going to be cutting my map on the Flux Beamo. It's amazing what you can do with this little thing. So let's dive into the video and check out how you can start making your own awesome layered map art. To get the layered effect on a map like this, we're gonna be using 3 pieces of wood. One piece is gonna be our back piece, that's gonna be our water. We're gonna go ahead and just paint that blue. We don't need to do any engraving on that. We don't have to do any cutting on that. The second layer is gonna be our local streets, and that's gonna be engraved, and it's also gonna cut out the landforms. And the top layer is gonna give us our label of our map and also the highways. And that will create highways and main roads, and that will create that layered effect that you see here in my map.
To start, we're going to head over to snazzymaps.com, and I will link that in the video description box below. So after you check out this video, you can head over there and start your creating. When you get to Snazzy Maps, the first thing you're going to want to do is create a free account. This is going to let you download up to 10 maps per day. So it's quick and easy. I use my Google sign-in, but you can create an account however you wish. Once you have your account all squared away, the first thing we are going to do is click on Create a Style. We are then going to use the default map style. But first, what I'm going to want to do is find the area of the world that I want to create a map in. So for this particular project, I'm going to be choosing Charleston, South Carolina, which was a request by one of my college roommates. So there's Charleston right there. I'm going to just use the zoom in features and find a good area of the city that I would like to create my map for. So we can just kind of zoom in here on the downtown, maybe a little bit too far, so let's go about right there seems good. Okay. So we are going to be creating a default map style, okay? And then go ahead and apply the style. Now, we need to start taking away some of the features of this map in order for us to engrave it. So the first thing we are going to want to do is go into all here, and we're going to go into geometry, and we're going to turn that off. We're then going to go into labels, and we're going to turn that off. And it looks like we just completely did nothing, and that's exactly what we want to do. Our next step is going to be to turn on the land and the water. And the colors in which I'm going to make our land and water are really important for the engraving and cutting using our software Beam Studio. So I'm going to go down to landscape, and I'm going to go to geometry, and I'm going to turn that on. This is going to show me the land of the city of Charleston. And I'm going to turn that as a custom color. And I want my land to be white. So I'm going to drag my little palette over and make my land white. Again, it looks like we did nothing. I don't see anything here. That's the point. We are now going to scroll down a little bit and go into water. And we are going to go to geometry and turn our water on. There we go. Now we see our land again. And we also see our water. Our water is going to be a custom color as well, and we are going to make our water black. Okay, so that is what we want to have. We want to have our land white and our water black. This is the first, or one of the first layers of our map. So we're going to want to go ahead now and download this image. When you download the image, you're going to be asked to choose your dimensions. Because I'm using Beamo, my workspace is a little bit smaller than most traditional laser beds. So feel free, if you have a bigger bed, to go all the way to 10,000 pixels, or excuse me, 1,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels. It'll really zoom in the area for you. Because my Beamo has a little bit smaller work bed, I like to go about 650 by 775. And I think that really makes some great work for me. We are then going to choose our scale factor. And for me, always choose scale factor 3. And then you can download this image and name it whatever you like. For organizational purposes, I'll usually do something like land water, just so I can really keep organized. And I'll save that to my desktop. There we go. Now that step is done. We can hit this little X up here in the corner. It takes us back to where we were working. We're going to stay on water, which is what we should still be on right now, and we're going to turn that geometry back off. We're now back to just having that white land. Again, exactly what we want. We're now going to go over to roads. And when you go to roads, we're going to go down to local. You'll then click on geometry and turn them on. We're going to give it a custom color, and we're going to give our local roads a black custom color. Okay. So this layer of our map shows our local roads. So your smaller streets inside of your city. These are going to be engraved on our first piece that we're going to create. So I'm going to go ahead and, again, download image. It's going to save my dimensions from earlier. I still have to choose my scale factor of 3, download image, and I'll go ahead and call this one land and local. All right, we got one more step. We're going to go ahead on our local roads and turn that geometry off. We're back to our white land. And here's something new. We're going back into our landscape. We're going back into our geometry. We already have a custom color land white. We are now going to turn the custom color of our land black. Okay? And again, these colors are going to be really important, as you'll see when we upload it into Beam Studio. We're now going to scroll back down here to roads. And now we're going to turn on our highways, our controlled access, and aerials. Okay? So we're going to go to highway. We're going to go to geometry. We're going to turn that on. We're going to give it a custom color, and it's going to be white. Now, it's really important to not forget controlled access and aerial roads as well, because you may be missing some little on-ramps and off-ramps, and there may be some disconnections that you missed from your local roads. So make sure that we do highways, and then we're going to controlled access, geometry on. For this particular city, there may not even be, we see there is some controlled access roads that we would have missed. And then we go to aerial, geometry on, and we see some other roads that are popping up that wouldn't have been there. So now we are completely covered. We have all the main surface roads in the city covered. And we are going to download this last file. Again, it saves our parameters. We're going 3 times. We're going to download this image. And I will call this last one land highway. There we go. All right, our next step is going to be to head over to our laser software, which is going to be Beam Studio. And I will link in the video description below, along with Snazzy Maps, the link to Flux's website for you to download Beam Studio. And what's really cool about Beam Studio is even if you besides the fact that it's totally free to use and great, what you can do is, if you don't have a Flux laser, which you should, again, if you want to check over to my my link in the video description box, you can get yourself your own BMO. It's so much fun. I love the thing. But if you don't have a BMO, you can still use the software to export your file in any of these formats. So BVG, SVG, PNG, JPEG, so that you can use this on whatever laser it is that you are using to cut and engrave with. But I think the Flux software makes layered map art just super easy and intuitive to do. So the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to bring over these files that we downloaded. So I'm just going to slide this window over and grab my land water. That was my first file, and I'm just going to drag it on in and import it into my Flux Studio. So what I'm going to want to do, the first thing I'm going to want to do when I'm in here is I'm going to want to turn the gradient off. Okay. And then I want to trace it, and this will convert it into paths for us. So there we go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the infill off. Okay. So why did we want our water to be black? Well, here's why. Because we chose our water to be black because now when we look, if I move my file around here. Let me just slide this down. We see at the top here, you see how our water has that nice straight line, okay, wherever it meets the edge. What this is going to allow us to do is when we cut, because this is going to be a cut layer. So this is going to be one of my cut layers. So I'm going to go to cutting, and I always like my cuts to be red. Okay, this is gonna be my cut layer. So what that's going to do for us is when it cuts on the laser, it's gonna leave a border around it, and it's gonna leave the land connected to the border, and just the water is gonna be cut out, which is what we want. We want that water cut out. So turning it, if we turned it white, if we made the water white, it would be mashed into the edge, and the land would be what was actually cut out. So we need the water to be that darker color, which is why we made it black. I told you those colors are important. So here we go. We have now got our file ready to go, and it's the way this is kind of set up. I like to work at it. Some people might not like this, but I like to kind of just flip it 90 degrees, just so I can have it like lined up on the bed that I'm actually going to be cutting on. So it helps me in my workspace to kind of visualize it this way. So I'll just kind of move this around and kind of get it centered. And there we go. So we have our land and our water right here. The next thing we're going to import on top of this is going to be our land and local. So I'm going to grab that PNG file and drag it over. And we see our land local. And what I'm going to do with my land local is I'm going to turn the gradient off. I am going to, first, this is annoying me. So I'm going to quickly make a new layer. And I'm going to call this layer 2. Or I'm going to call this, we'll name our layers here. So let's go. We'll just call this water. And we'll call this layer local. Okay. And I want to just quickly take this layer that I have and send it to local so that it is blue. Okay, there we go. Perfect. So we have our land and our local roads. And what I'm going to want to do with my local roads, click on over to that, is, okay, here we go, perfect, is we already turned our gradient off. Okay, so when we had it, it was turned on. Okay, so gradient off. And we are going to hit trace again. Let's turn it into a path. Perfection. And now we are going to go over to our orientation and flip it 90 degrees. Okay. And now I'm just going to use my arrow keys to line this up. And what's super nice about lining it up, but it's going to be super annoying in a little bit, is if you notice on the bottom of my map, it would be the bottom right corner. We have some text there from Google. And while it doesn't look great right now, it actually is super helpful because it really allows us, if we zoom in here, to really line this up right. So we can really get this exactly kind of where it needs to be. So we see how that kind of layers over that really nicely. So that's kind of right where those roads are in real life. So we can kind of just play around and get this pretty much perfect. Okay, so we see how that overlap is. That really allows us to make sure that our streets are in the correct spots. So we're going to zoom out there. And this is going to be our first piece that we run through our laser. So the blue local roads are going to be engraved, and the red waters are going to be cut out. So that will give us our first piece of our map. The next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to put in our land highway. So I'm going to drag that over, and I'm going to see that there. And I want to go ahead and make a new layer. And I'm going to call this guy highway. Okay. And I'm going to turn him a different color just so we can keep everything nice and organized. We're just going to make you green. And our highways are going to also be cut. Okay. So I'm going to click over to my highway. Just like the previous layers before it, we're going to turn gradient off. We are going to trace. We are going to turn off our infill. And we're going to rotate 90 degrees. And then I forgot to send this little friend over to highway. So there we go. Yep, we went to highway. We got our green. And just like before, we're going to use our arrow keys to line this all up. And again, that Google font in the corner is really going to help us make sure that this is lined up perfectly for us. There we go. Let's zoom in a little bit, make sure we're lined up good. That looks pretty pretty nice, right about there. Looks pretty good. Looks like our local roads are meeting up. Our on and off ramps are meeting up. Looks really great. So there we go. Zoom that out. So they are our engraves and our cuts. On our top layer here with our highway, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my local and my water for right now. On my highways, one of the things that I'm going to want to do is add in my font. So I'm just going to use the text tool here and just click and add in Charleston, South Carolina. Okay. And just like before, we're going to flip that 90 degrees. And we can use some of the tools to make sure that we center this. So we do a middle align there, and then we do a center line. We can get that perfectly centered into our workspace. And then I'm just going to use my arrow keys to kind of bump this down. There we go, perfect. And we can change the size of that, the font of that, add more text features. I like to add the longitude, latitude, maybe the city nickname in there. There's a whole lot that you can do with that. But one of the things that's important to know is that this is going to be a new layer. And this layer is going to be called our text. Okay. And we want to send it to this layer. Let's click here. And we want to send it to our text layer. Just like that. Okay. And we want our text to be engraved. So when we run this through the laser, we're going to be running two things through the laser. The first thing we're running through the laser is these two layers. So our highways are going to be cut, and our text is going to be engraved. Okay. And then the other thing we're going to be running through is going to be our local and our water. So local is going to be engraved, water is going to be cut. You want your engrave to happen first before your cut. So your cut layer should always be below your engrave layers. So text, then highways, and then local, and then water is the order you want to do. And then if you're using a flux laser, it will only cut and engrave what you have turned on. So if you hide a layer, it's not gonna show that layer. So really easy to have all of your components in one screen. So it's really easy to make sure this lines up really good. And you can just, like I said, turn off and hide what you don't want. Now, one thing I want to show you is we have that Google, those Google logos and stuff in the corner here. And you might not really want this on your map. You might not care, but you might not want this, especially if it's a cut. You don't want it like cutting out the word Google. It will look kind of strange. But again, this piece probably would just fall off anyway. But it's just more work for your laser that doesn't need to be done. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our highway here. We're going to click on the layer. And we are going to decompose it. And when we decompose it, we're going to be able to then grab any of these individual paths, which are these letters, like in the word Google here, and just hit the delete key, and we can delete them. It kind of is annoying, especially like the letters that we have infills, but you can just kind of click through and get rid of any of this text that's gone now, as well as over here. Another thing you're going to want to do is there is a little notch here, okay, where they have this language here. So one of the things that we can do is we can click on these. I'll zoom in a little bit more here. We can click on these actual squares, and we can adjust them. So like I can take this and pull it down, okay, and then I'm pulling down this part of the map to make it nice and straight again. And with roads and stuff, it's going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of patience to kind of adjust it all accordingly. But it really is as simple as just kind of grabbing each of these little points and just dragging them down. It goes quite quick once you get the hang of it. So it's just a matter of kind of just dragging this road down, and we see that we kind of filled in that road. And obviously, this font would be deleted. Once we have deleted all of this text and adjusted the borders the way we want, one of the things that we are going to want to do is just quickly highlight all of our all of our layer again, and then go ahead and regroup it up. Because when we decomposed it, we broke it all down. We want to just go ahead and regroup it up so it's going to be nice and easy for us if we have to move it. Again, we'll be able to move the whole thing as a piece instead of moving just individual parts of it. So make sure that we regroup at the end. Okay, the last little thing I want to take a look at with you are local roads that cross water. So when we cut, it's going to engrave first. So for example, right here, it's going to cut, or it's going to engrave this blue, right? And then it's going to cut out this red. So there's going to be a space there. And, that's not going to look great on our map. It's going to be really tiny. It might not be noticeable, but it's not going to look great. So what I want to do is create a bridge. So how do I do that? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off my local roads here. I'm just going to be looking at my water, and I'm going to grab a little rectangle and draw a little rectangle there. And then I'm going to turn on these local roads here, and I'm going to look at kind of where this is, okay? Right about there, and I'm going to grab this little green dot at the top. Okay, so I'm just going to want to kind of adjust this so that it's covering up my road here. Okay, so there we go. My road's kind of going right over that bridge. Now that I have this, I'm going to click this shape, okay? And this is important, okay? Or it's not going to work. You need to send it to the back, okay? Send it to the back. Select this. And we're going over here to subtract. And there we go. It will cut our waterway so that when we turn back on our land, that road's going to still appear. It's going to look like a bridge, and it's really going to be hardly noticeable. So any city that you're doing with a lot of bridges, Chicago is one of the cities that I made a map for. If you're going to have a lot of little bridges and little local roads over water that you have to edit there. So just kind of important to kind of keep in mind, but it's really easy to create those little bridges if you need them. So with a little bit more editing, my map would be ready for my laser. I would just want to make sure that I head through again and delete all the text in the corner and kind of just lower it and make sure that everything is lined up perfectly. And then it's ready to go. Again, you want to make sure that you are running two different projects through. Your first project is going to be your text engraving, your highway cutting, and then you're going to have those turned off and turn on your local engraving and your water cutting, and you will have yourself one awesome looking project. Okay, once everything is cut and engraved and ready to go, you're going to glue it all together. I already have my first two layers, my blue painted back piece and then my water cut and engraved piece under a block of snap cubes or magnet tiles getting kind of pushed down and the glue sealed. But all you're going to want to do is put some sticky glue on the back of each piece and put some pressure on it to hold it all together.
So there you have it. That's all that we have to do to create amazing layered map art just like this one. I wish you the best of luck in your journey and have fun creating some great maps. If you like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. It will do me a big favor as I continue to try to grow my channel and my STEM platform. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you happy creating.